A mother's shocking secret, the truth behind her son's strange death. In the quiet suburbs of Franklin, Tennessee, a family's picture perfect life hid a darkness that would shock an entire community: a devoted mother, a troubled son, and a tragedy that would unravel everything they thought they knew about love, mental health, and survival. If you're into stories that will leave you stunned and questioning everything, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe our channel. This isn't just another story. This is a real-life journey that will make you look at family, mental health, and the line between love and destruction in a way you've never imagined before. Get ready to dive deep into a story that's so unbelievable, you'll have to keep telling yourself, this actually happened. A tragic story unfolded in May 2005 that would forever change the perception of a seemingly perfect family. Martha Imbrell, a 46-year-old librarian at Franklin High School, was more than just an educator. She was a beacon of warmth and inspiration in her community, beloved by students and colleagues alike. Martha's life was a tapestry of passion and dedication. Her professional role at the high school was far more than a job. It was a calling. Known for her infectious smile and unwavering commitment to literacy, she transformed the library into a sanctuary of knowledge. Her colleagues respected her innovative approaches to engaging students, particularly her annual summer reading initiatives that encouraged young minds to explore worlds beyond their immediate reality. At home, Martha was the heart of her family. Her 3 children, 17-year-old Jace and 8-year-old twins Cricket and Boost, were her universe. She was a meticulous and loving mother who balanced her professional responsibilities with exceptional parental care. Homework help, family dinners, and weekend gardening were sacred rituals that defined the Imbrell household's rhythm. Her husband, Thomas J. Imbrell, an insurance agent with a demanding career, shared her commitment to family. Together, they created a nurturing environment that seemed picture perfect. In the spring of 2005, Martha was particularly excited, planning a family vacation to Disney World and preparing her elaborate garden for the summer bloom. Her flower beds were legendary in the neighborhood, vibrant, meticulously maintained patches of color that reflected her nurturing spirit. Martha was more than just a librarian or a mother. She was a community connector. Her home was a gathering space where neighbors congregated, sharing homemade dishes, gardening tips, and laughter. Friends described her as an empathetic listener, always ready to offer support or guidance. Her book fairs and community events were testament to her belief in the transformative power of education and connection. As May 18, 2005 dawned, a day with clear skies and mild temperatures, nothing suggested the impending tragedy. Martha was in high spirits, discussing summer reading lists with her students, planning new flower plantings, and looking forward to their upcoming family vacation. Little did anyone know that this day would mark a turning point, a moment that would shatter the tranquil facade of the Imbrell family and send shockwaves through the tight-knit Franklin community. The morning of May 18th began with an ominous revelation when Thomas Imbrell contacted local authorities around 7:30 a.m. to report his wife, Martha, missing. She had not returned home from work the previous day, a stark departure from her typically predictable routine. The unsettling silence from Martha, a woman known for her constant communication and family-first approach, immediately raised red flags for her concerned husband. Later that afternoon, Ryan Jenkins, a local hiker familiar with Franklin Park's intricate trail system, was enjoying a solitary walk when fate intervened. The park, typically a serene landscape of natural beauty with winding trails and peaceful picnic areas, would become the site of a gruesome discovery. As Jenkins traversed a particularly secluded path, something unusual caught his eye: an unnatural shape partially hidden in the dense undergrowth. Approaching cautiously, Jenkins made a horrifying discovery: a naked female body lying motionless among the bushes. Recognizing Martha from local news coverage, he immediately contacted 911, his hands trembling as he provided details to the dispatcher. The local community was about to be thrust into a nightmare that would challenge everything they thought they knew about their quiet suburban existence. By 2 p.m., Detective Sarah Owens and Officer Mark Davis arrived at the crime scene. Both seasoned investigators with reputations for meticulous work, they approached the area with professional detachment, masking their internal shock. The scene was unlike anything they had encountered before. Martha's body bore evidence of extreme violence that defied immediate comprehension. Initial observations suggested something far more sinister than a simple animal attack. The forensic team methodically processed the area, their white protective suits a stark contrast against the natural greenery of Franklin Park. Specialized cameras captured every minute detail, while evidence collection kits were used to gather trace amounts of blood, hair, and other potential forensic markers. The investigators wore multiple layers of protective gloves, understanding that even the smallest piece of evidence could be crucial in unraveling the mystery of Martha's death. As news spread through local media channels like WKRN and the Tennessean, a wave of fear and disbelief swept through Franklin. Martha Imbrell, a beloved librarian, devoted mother, and pillar of the community, had been brutally murdered. The statistical likelihood of such a violent crime in their tight-knit community was astronomically low, with local crime databases showing fewer than 3 similar incidents in the past decade. The investigation was about to become the most intensely followed case in Franklin's recent history, with residents demanding answers and justice for Martha. The forensic investigation into Martha Imbrell's death began to reveal disturbing details that painted a complex picture of her final moments. Dr. Linda Bastardi, the county medical examiner, conducted a meticulous autopsy that uncovered a critical piece of evidence: significant traces of sleeping pills in Martha's system. This finding suggested a premeditated attack, with the perpetrator deliberately incapacitating the victim before unleashing a brutal assault. At the crime scene, forensic teams made another significant discovery. Partially concealed beneath a cluster of bushes, investigators found a blood-stained baseball bat, likely the primary weapon used in the attack. The bat became a crucial piece of physical evidence, with forensic specialists carefully collecting fingerprints and DNA samples. Preliminary analysis revealed multiple blood traces, indicating an extremely violent confrontation that suggested personal rage rather than a random act of violence. Local law enforcement began a comprehensive witness canvass, interviewing park visitors and nearby residents. Several individuals reported hearing unusual noises late in the evening of Martha's disappearance, muffled sounds of struggle, unusual rustling, and what some described as suppressed screams. While none of these witnesses initially thought the sounds were significant, each statement became a potential thread in unraveling the mystery surrounding Martha's death. Media coverage intensified, with local news outlets like WKRN and the Tennessean providing near-continuous updates. The once peaceful community of Franklin was gripped by fear and speculation. Crime statistics showed that violent murders. Detective Sarah Owens strategically began her investigation by examining the most proximate suspect, Thomas J. Imbrell, Martha's 61-year-old husband. While initially considered a devoted family man, recent financial pressures had begun to strain the Imbrell household. Thomas worked as an insurance agent, a profession known for its potential stress and occasional economic volatility. His role in reporting Martha's disappearance, combined with emerging financial tensions, made him a natural first point of investigation. The interview room at the Franklin Police Department became a crucible of emotional tension. Thomas appeared visibly distraught, his typically composed demeanor fractured by grief and the intense scrutiny of law enforcement. As Detective Owens methodically reconstructed the timeline of Martha's final day, Thomas recounted their morning routine with painful precision. He described Martha's departure for work, emphasizing her usual cheerful demeanor, and expressed growing concern when she failed to return home by dinner time. Each detail was meticulously documented, each statement carefully analyzed for potential inconsistencies that might reveal a deeper, more sinister narrative. Thomas Imbrell's initial attempts to locate his wife revealed a mounting sense of desperation. He methodically worked through his contact list, first trying Martha's cell phone repeatedly, only to be met with silence. Subsequent calls to her friends and colleagues yielded no information about her whereabouts, escalating his growing anxiety. With each unanswered call, the typical rhythm of their predictable life began to fracture, ultimately compelling him to contact local law enforcement early the following morning. During the interrogation, Thomas's emotional vulnerability became palpable. When questioned about their financial challenges, he candidly acknowledged recent economic pressures, but vehemently denied any potential for violence. He spoke passionately about their upcoming Disney World vacation, describing it as a beacon of hope during their difficult times. His narrative painted a picture of a committed husband desperately trying to maintain family unity despite underlying stress. The detectives observed his body language closely, noting the genuine anguish that seemed to radiate from his very being. Law enforcement conducted a comprehensive investigation of Thomas's professional and personal environments. His office and vehicle were meticulously searched, revealing no immediate signs of criminal involvement. Colleagues described Thomas as a dedicated professional, albeit one who had recently exhibited increased signs of workplace stress. Phone records and neighborhood witness statements corroborated his potential alibi, showing he was home during the critical time frame of Martha's disappearance. While financial troubles presented a potential motive, investigators found themselves in a challenging position. The evidence, though circumstantial, did not definitively link Thomas to Martha's murder. His cooperative demeanor, combined with a lack of concrete physical evidence, complicated the investigation. The detectives recognized that Thomas remained a person of interest, but they needed more substantial proof to move forward with any serious allegations. The investigative focus then shifted to Samantha Riley, a 27-year-old co-worker at Franklin High School. Known for her assertive personality, Samantha had been observed in a heated argument with Martha days before her disappearance. This confrontation immediately elevated her to a person of interest in the investigation. Witnesses reported tension between the two, suggesting a potential professional or personal conflict that might have escalated beyond typical workplace disagreements. When Samantha arrived for questioning, her demeanor was a study in controlled anxiety. She entered the same small, austere interview room where Thomas had been questioned, her body language simultaneously defensive and defiant. Detective Owens and Officer Davis prepared to delve into the details of her relationship with Martha, keenly aware that workplace conflicts can sometimes transform into something far more dangerous. The stage was set when questioned about her whereabouts on the day of Martha's disappearance. Samantha maintained that she had gone home after work and remained in her small apartment. However, her alibi quickly unraveled during the investigation. No witnesses could confirm her presence at home during the critical time frame, creating a significant gap in her narrative. The lack of corroboration immediately raised suspicions, transforming her from a potential witness to a person of increasing interest in the investigation. Samantha's demeanor during questioning oscillated between defensive anger and palpable fear. When directly confronted about any involvement in Martha's death, she vehemently denied any wrongdoing. Her emotional response was a complex mixture of indignation and anxiety. She seemed genuinely convinced that she was being unfairly targeted because of the harassment complaint. The detectives carefully observed her body language, noting the subtle tells that suggested deeper layers of complexity beneath her protestations of innocence. A thorough search of Samantha's apartment yielded mixed results. While no direct evidence linked her to Martha's murder, investigators discovered internal school documentation related to the harassment complaint. These notes substantiated part of Samantha's narrative about the tension between her and Martha, adding an unexpected layer of credibility to her initial statements. Colleagues interviewed during the investigation provided a nuanced perspective, describing Samantha as a passionate individual who was known for standing up for herself and others. Workplace dynamics emerged as a critical area of investigation. Colleagues reported an increasing pattern of inappropriate interactions between Martha and Samantha, with off-color comments becoming more frequent. However, none of her co-workers believed Samantha capable of such extreme violence. The testimony painted her as a complex individual, passionate and outspoken, but not inherently dangerous. This characterization created a challenging puzzle for the investigators, who found themselves navigating a landscape of professional misconduct and potential personal conflict. As the investigation progressed, law enforcement found themselves at a critical juncture. Samantha remained a person of interest, but the lack of concrete evidence prevented any definitive action. The warm, sunny day of May 21, 2005, seemed to mirror the investigative landscape, bright on the surface but with hidden complexities lurking beneath. The search for Martha's killer continued, with detectives methodically exploring every potential lead, aware that the truth might be far more intricate than initial appearances suggested. Around 10:15 a.m., a breakthrough emerged in the investigation through an unexpected source. Dr. Linda Bastardi, a forensic pathologist known for her dual expertise in medical examination and long-distance running, made a critical discovery during her morning trail run near Franklin Park. Her intimate knowledge of the local terrain and professional instincts proved instrumental in uncovering potential evidence related to Martha Imbrell's murder. The discovered evidence was both precise and haunting. A torn piece of clothing, definitively matched to Martha's outfit from the day of her disappearance, lay partially hidden under a layer of decaying leaves. Accompanying the fabric was a small metal box that seemed to hold a treasure trove of psychological insights. Detective Owens and Officer Davis carefully collected the items, their professional composure masking the growing excitement of a potential breakthrough in the case. Inside the metal box, investigators discovered a series of handwritten notes that painted a disturbing psychological landscape. The writing appeared fragmented and emotionally charged, revealing an author experiencing intense psychological distress. Accompanying the notes were deeply troubling drawings, violent scenes interwoven with strange, almost ritualistic symbols that suggested a mind wrestling with profound inner turmoil. The forensic team recognized these as more than mere scribblings. They were potential windows into a fractured psychological state. A critical turning point came with the handwriting analysis, which unexpectedly pointed to Jace Imbrell, Martha's 17-year-old son. Jace's psychological profile emerged as profoundly complex. Diagnosed with severe hallucinations and delusions, he had recently developed a deeply disturbing fascination with cannibalism, a revelation that had deeply troubled Martha. She had been working tirelessly to get her son the help he desperately needed, understanding the potential danger of his untreated mental health conditions. This background transformed Jace from a mere suspect to a critically vulnerable individual, potentially caught in a spiraling psychological crisis. When brought in for questioning, Jace appeared a study in contradictions. His physical presence in the interview room, small, anxious, and visibly confused, contrasted sharply with the dark imagery found in the metal box. Speaking about his mother, Jace portrayed Martha as a beacon of understanding and unconditional love. He emphasized her role as the only person who truly comprehended his internal struggles, the one constant source of support in his increasingly fragmented world. The detectives listened carefully, recognizing that they were navigating a delicate psychological landscape where the line between victim and potential perpetrator was devastatingly thin. Jace's narrative began to unravel during intense questioning, revealing a complex psychological landscape marked by pressure and internal conflict. While describing his relationship with Martha, he simultaneously expressed profound love and overwhelming stress. His accounts of the day of her disappearance were fragmented and inconsistent, a meandering description of marijuana consumption and video game immersion that failed to provide a credible alibi. Investigators recognized the telltale signs of a narrative constructed to obfuscate the truth. Digital forensics exposed a darker dimension of Jace's psychological profile. He candidly admitted participation in online communities dedicated to exploring taboo and deeply disturbing topics, particularly those centered around cannibalism. These virtual spaces provided him a sense of belonging that his real-world existence seemingly could not. The psychological assessment revealed these online interactions as symptomatic of profound isolation and mental health deterioration, exacerbated by persistent marijuana use and untreated psychological conditions. The discovery of the blood-stained baseball bat, the very weapon used in Martha's murder, marked a critical turning point in the investigation. Physical evidence now aligned with the mounting circumstantial proof. When directly confronted about his involvement, Jace initially maintained a facade of denial. However, his subsequent statement would become the most chilling confession in Franklin's criminal history. "My mom tasted like Lunchables," a statement that simultaneously confirmed the investigators' worst suspicions and revealed the depth of his psychological disintegration. Forensic psychologists would later analyze Jace's confession through the lens of marijuana-induced psychosis and the dangerous influence of online communities that romanticized cannibalistic fantasies. His delusional belief that consuming his mother's flesh would transfer her strength and wisdom represented a grotesque manifestation of psychological breakdown. The marijuana-induced altered states, combined with his exposure to extreme online content, had systematically eroded his psychological boundaries, transforming a troubled teenager into a perpetrator of unimaginable violence. By May 23, 2005, the overcast skies of Franklin seemed to mirror the community's collective shock and grief. The investigation had conclusively established Jace Imbrell as Martha's murderer. The verdict elicited a spectrum of emotional responses. Prosecutor Matthews viewed the outcome as a form of justice, believing that Jace would be held accountable for his horrific actions. Rachel Breezy Kelly expressed a mixture of relief and disappointment, grateful that Jace would receive psychiatric intervention, yet believing a lighter sentence would have better served his rehabilitation. Martha's family found themselves in a complex emotional landscape, simultaneously devastated by her loss and seeking some form of closure through the legal proceedings. Perhaps most poignant was Thomas Imbrell's internal struggle. A father torn between familial love and the incomprehensible horror of losing his wife to his own son's violent actions, Thomas embodied the case's deepest tragedy. His emotional journey represented the ultimate human challenge: how to reconcile parental love with the unthinkable, how to maintain compassion in the face of unspeakable violence. The Imbrell family story became a haunting testament to the complex intersections of mental health, familial bonds, and the devastating consequences of untreated psychological disorders. The aftermath of Jace's trial left the Franklin community in a state of collective reflection. While the legal proceedings had reached a conclusion, the deeper implications of Martha's tragic death continued to reverberate. Friends and neighbors found themselves grappling with a complex emotional landscape, acknowledging the need for justice while simultaneously recognizing the profound mental health challenges that had led to such a devastating outcome. The sentence was viewed not as a punishment, but as a potential pathway to healing and rehabilitation. Media coverage of the case sparked critical conversations about mental health intervention that extended far beyond the boundaries of Franklin. Martha's story became a powerful catalyst for examining the systemic failures in mental health treatment, particularly for youth struggling with addiction and psychological disorders. The community began to recognize that Martha's desperate attempts to secure help for Jace represented a broader societal challenge: the often insurmountable barriers families face when seeking. Martha Imbrell's story transcended the immediate circumstances of her tragic death, becoming a powerful narrative about love, mental health, and societal responsibility. Her unwavering dedication to her son, her commitment to her family, and her passionate approach to life stood in stark contrast to the horrific manner of her death. Her memory became a call to action, a reminder that early intervention, compassionate support, and systemic understanding can potentially prevent such devastating outcomes. In the end, Martha's legacy was not defined by her manner of death, but by the profound love and hope she represented throughout her life. The story of Martha and Jace Imbrell is more than just a tragic crime. It's a heartbreaking reminder of the critical importance of mental health support and early intervention. A mother's unconditional love couldn't overcome her son's untreated psychological struggles, revealing the devastating consequences when families and systems fail to provide the help that's desperately needed. This isn't just a story about a murder. It's a wake-up call about the silent battles fought behind closed doors, the mental health challenges that can tear families apart, and the thin line between love and destruction. If this story moved you, if it made you think, if it opened your eyes, drop a comment below. Share your thoughts, your reflections, your own experiences. Hit that like button and help spread awareness. Together, we can turn stories like these into opportunities for understanding and change. Remember, every story shared is a chance to create empathy, spark conversation, and maybe, just maybe, prevent another tragedy.